Well, let's jump straight into it. I think we should start with the most obvious choice and probably the hottest rookie out there at the moment, CEH, Clyde
When
Edwards-Helaire.
we say
I don't know about
hottest,
you guys. Hottest.
Are you talking about his looks or his fancy talent there? So I just want to say we're not objectifying.
It's not even his fantasy talent. It's his opportunity now, isn't it? Domain Williams has opted out. He's got some more opportunity to lead the running backs over by the Chiefs. I've seen him jump up in mock drafts. He's becoming, round 1 picks at the moment. That's where I've seen him. And I think that's absolutely crazy. I was picking him looking for, round 3, great value. Round 2, if you're really pushing it. But now he's just going straight away. I don't know what you guys have seeing or what you think of that, actually.
It's just a case of Damien Williams goes, there's no more ambiguity there in the backfield anymore. So boom, let's go. We know who's going to be the lead running back on probably the best offense in the league. I still worry a little bit, but I mean, why would you not go for him? I've done some maths and I'm sure we'll cover that in a minute. And I'm worryingly high, but I mean, there's literally nothing stopping the kid now, right?
But would you risk a round 1 pick on him though? That because if you want him, that's where he's going.
No, not round 1. Absolutely not.
It depends how big your league is. If you were talking a 14, 12-man league, round 1, would you have him over someone like Kenyon Drake? Personally, I probably would in round 1. If you're at the tail end of, say, 13, 14 pick.
14, yeah. If you're at the tail end of a 14-team league, I should say, then I can see that going. But in a 10 or 12-man league, I don't think there's any need to reach into the first for him.
No, it'll be going at the start of the second, though. Yeah. I've seen that every single mock. So if you're pick 10, pick 9 now, I think you're no-brainer pick if he comes to you. And
if he falls to you there, that's great value. I think at the moment, I think he'll produce some really big numbers. I think you'll snap him up, as you say.
Is he going to break inside the top 6 picks of round 1? No. If he does, and someone in our home league or in your home league takes him. Profit from their mistake. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think he'll have fantasy numbers, but outside of Kareem Hunt, there's not been that many running backs profit because Mahomes, even though he asked for CEH, they've just got such good passing options. He's the best quarterback in the league. I know Lamar won the NFL MVP, but who got the mega money contract? Who won the Super Bowl? Who won the Super Bowl MVP and has a cannon of an arm?
But I think I saw a stat today. I might be wrong, but I think I saw it on Twitter that CEH in college had a 95% catch rate.
Yeah, I was going to touch upon that. And the 55 receptions he got, as I say, I think
in his last season was that, yeah.
He's literally only 1 or 2 he dropped. And if you look back at the plays, that's because Burrow was doing like a panic check down, there were defenders on him. And actually, if he'd caught it, he could have lost yardage, maybe you'd argue. But he's an intelligent player. He's got his head screwed on. And let's be honest, you've got all the weapons in the Chief offense that are going to make defenses cry. And as we talked about, the passing game is so strong, that should open up the running game, shouldn't it?
Well, look at what they did in the Super Bowl.
So I was going to say, with that, we're saying he's moving into an offense that has so much utility to utilize at the moment already. LSU last year, I mean, he not only did 55 receptions for 450 yards, he also did 1,400 rushing yards as well with LSU's offense. So is he already used to that sort of dynamic team aspect and just ready to plug in, as you say, for Burrow to drop off to, or in this case, it will be Mahomes if he's needed, and then intelligent plays get him to the yards.
I've joked before about how everyone calls Alabama the 33rd NFL franchise, but last year it may as well have been LSU. They were running a pretty good playbook. They were just dominating most of their opposition. Their quarterback's gone number 1 overall, so it's not as if he's coming out of, I don't know, like Notre Dame or somewhere like that where they're still a good football team, but there's going to be a step up to the NFL for them. So I drew a comparison in my head earlier that I think he's potentially on for the same kind of rookie season as Fournette managed to land himself back in 2017. And it's recent memory, 2017, we saw a rookie running back come in the right situation and make a big difference, and I don't see why that can't happen with CEH.
Do you know, if you actually go onto the Chiefs depth chart on their website, they don't actually have an RB2 at the moment. It just goes from Damian Williams, skips RB2's blank, over to Darwin Thompson, RB3. So you got to think, are they just holding off, giving anticipation? and just slotting in CEH there straight away, which now means he'll be RB1 and getting those touches.
I would imagine it's more a case of
he's not signed his contract. Maybe
he might not sign his contract, and I don't think they have to release their first depth charts until a couple of weeks into camp or something, do they?
Right.
So I guess it's a case they haven't had to update them yet. But I mean, we all know it's going to be CEH at the top, and then probably followed by Darrell Williams, and then where Washington and Thompson come is going to be a bit of 50-50 between them.
But I think if you look at other rookie running backs that have had a huge impact coming out into a strong team, you look at Zeke, you look at Saquon, you look at Fournette, you look at Derrick Henry. For me, I personally don't see Clyde Edwards-Helaire at that level. And he's only 5'7", winning at 207 pounds was his college year. Maybe, stack some muscle on, maybe ST 220, 225. He's not going to grow any more inches, is he? He's only 5'7". Has he got that explosive cutaway speed Barkley had and the generational playmaking talents? No. I think, a second-round pick is fair, and I think he'll end the season with maybe 1,100, 1,200 yards and I'd say 8 touchdowns. And
are you saying yards on the ground or total all-purpose yardage?
I'm going to go yards on the ground for that one, and I'm going to say between 250 and 325 receiving, with maybe an additional few touchdowns.
Do you think he'll do like a 1,500-odd yard all-purpose yard season?
Rookie season with the Chiefs.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to put points
predicted
on
his
everyone.
touchdowns?
Well, that's round one. That's a round one pick in my mind if you're predicting those numbers.
Yeah, you can't predict those numbers and not have him in your first-round picks.
Yeah.
You're predicting him higher than Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry.
Look at Kenyon Drake. If you extrapolate out his numbers from last year, he'd have come up with something similar, correct?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No, we've been repeating this after episode with the your extrapolation.
However, Kenyon Drake's not going in. Eckler finished RB whatever. He's not even in the first round. He's been falling occasionally to the third. And the only reason he's not going at the first for me is the risk of the unknown.
But the unknown's gone now, mostly. I guess,
this is it. It's not only the unknown, though, but we don't know what role he's going to play for the Chiefs. And I think this hits a number of these rookies, is that because the mini camps haven't gone ahead, we just don't know where they're going to fit in and how much they're going to be utilised. As you said earlier, even though Patrick Mahomes called up the GM and said, I want CH on this team, it doesn't mean that the playbook's going to work to his favour. So I feel like he's going to go round one in my mind, especially in our home league. If he falls to 11th or 12th pick, I'm going to take him up, but that'll be round 2, so I'll be happy with that.
I'm going to put it out there as a closing point on this one, because I can feel like you're getting ready to corral us on there, Matt. I think he's going to go for 200 carries, 60 receptions. As you say, it's a pass-heavy offense. 8 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns, between 1,250 and 1,300 total yards, and I think he'll finish as RB8.
You're not miles off me then. I've just been a bit more generous on my receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, I've got him as just over 850 rushing yards and then about 400 receiving yards.
Bloody hell. You think it'd be almost a 33-66 split? Wow.
Well, you said yourself, they're a very pass-heavy offense. The only running back who's made big waves there has been Kareem Hunt, who we know is very good as a pass-catching back, so it kind of makes sense for him to fit into that kind of mould. And I think RB8 is potentially his ceiling this year. I think RB20 is potentially his floor, so, with him, you're guaranteed somewhere between an RB2 and a mid-range RB1.
I'm stuck here, and my last closing point in CH would be my home league people. I know, unfortunately, I'm in it with you two and others who listen to this. Please don't touch CEH. Let him fall. Let me profit in the second round of him. But unfortunately, if you're at the end of the first, say your 9th, 10th pick, I'd actually rather have him than someone like Julio Jones. I personally would. He's more guaranteed a safer floor. We've spoken about this boom bust. I think he's a safe floor player of guaranteed points per week. In that offense, you just guaranteed it. But
that's really interesting. So let's move on to our next player, who I think we should all know, Jonathan Taylor. Moving to the Colts. I'm really confused as to why everyone's really up for CEH and yet not having the same hype for Jonathan Taylor. Now, is it the competition he's facing in the Colts?
Yeah.
You got Marlon Mack coming back off a 1,000-yard season, which is fantastic. But is he going to take over? I mean, if you actually look at his stats, he nearly, and this is unfortunate, but he nearly got rushing yards, 2,000 a season in Wisconsin. He got overall, over his 3 years, he got 6,174 yards. And although he only got 250 receiving during his last season, it's still great.
That touches on a good point. I think one of the reasons people are going to be down on him, and we have to remember that the vast majority of people these days play PPR leagues. So a lot of the stuff you read from all the other analysts quite usually be geared towards PPR rankings. A lot of people on Twitter and Instagram will be geared towards PPR rankings. And the big question around Taylor versus CEH is his passing game. What is his role in the passing game? Because I think he's got nowhere near a 95% completion rate, I'll tell you that. I imagine he's way closer to 65% with a lot of other players. And I think that's a big problem. That, and as you say, Marlon Mack, you have to get the feeling they brought him in because they want to start ushering Marlon Mack out of town, but how quickly that happens and how much that happens throughout the season, I think is the big unknowns that suddenly drop him a number of rounds coming down from where CEH is going.
He's a safe 5th round pick for me. I'd take him over other players, RB1 such as Singletary and Montgomery. I think personally the upside is there, potential's there, and Chris Ballard, the GM, he traded up to get him.
Yeah.
The coach has come out and said, actually, it's not a 1-2 punch with Mack, it's a 1-1 punch. Now, I think Marlon Mack loses his job game 5, game 6, and with COVID, say Marlon Mack gets the COVID and he's out for a few weeks, boom, you've got a guaranteed RB1 putting up stupid points with that Colts offensive line.
Stacked. Oh. Quentin Nelson, get in there, mate. Or is he Cowboys? He might be Cowboys, actually.
He's both. He's both.
He's both. He's neither. It doesn't matter. He doesn't listen. He won't be upset. This touches, though, on my point I wanted to ask both of you. Say, theoretically, what is it, Thursday, Friday this week, the opt-out deadline? So maybe when you're listening to this, the opt-out deadline has been and gone.
Yep.
If Marlon Mack does a surprise opt-out between us recording this and the deadline, how far does JT start shooting up draft boards? We've seen Helaire jump maybe even up to 2 rounds as Damian Williams opted out. Jonathan Taylor, he's going ADP 46 at the minute, so he's in the 4th round. Where does he go?
End of the 2nd every day of the week.
I reckon he jumps straight to the 2nd, if not some leads he'll push first.
Because he is a unit. That picture you tweeted out earlier, Matt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like, no, this is not an offensive lineman. This is Jonathan Taylor. And you do just look at him and think, wow, he is. Yeah. And I mean, no wonder. This is how he's been able to put up 6,000 yards and 55 touchdowns in 3 seasons.
So, and the thing for me is, just to cut you off, is Rivers. Rivers loves to check down. And if Marlon Mack isn't there and his pass catching hasn't been the best of years, and he builds a rapport with Rivers, in PPR leagues he steps up a lot more as well. Look how much Eckler and Gordon caught check downs from Rivers. He's suddenly not going to change his game, is he?
No.
Even with a better O-line.
Taking a side swipe on that, as I said earlier, no one really knows what Taylor's pass catching game is like. It might be terrible. If it is, and Marlon Mack gets beaten out of a job and doesn't even come in for passing downs, are we suddenly seeing a huge bump for Nyheim Hines or Jack Doyle?
That's a good point.
No, I know. I had him for 2 years. I really wanted him to do well, but I think it's time to drop that. But Jack Doyle, if Jonathan Taylor isn't up for the pass catching game, might suddenly, that might be a little tight end to not sleep on. I know it's outside of what we're meant to be talking about today, but I couldn't shake that feeling.
You see, he didn't do pass catching. All right, he got 26 his last year at Wisconsin, 252 yards. It was almost 10 yards per carry on a pass catch. Yes, 26 an entire season isn't huge, and he only had less than double digits before. And I do worry, has some tread been taken off the tyres with those, as the Zebra points out, 6,000 yards.
It's a lot of work to be putting your body through, isn't it?
But he looks a physical specimen. I just hope he becomes another Derrick Henry. Look at Derrick Henry. He doesn't have that much pass catching, but he still puts up really strong.
There's no pass catching. He just runs straight over people.
In a standard league, Jonathan Taylor's your dream.
Yeah. And I actually wrote that down here. I was like, maybe he's just way better in standard than he is in PPR scoring.
Yeah. But it's your point, Marlon Mack, end of the 2nd is his floor. If he goes anywhere after that in the 3rd, you're like, profit, if Marlon Mack goes out. And then if anything happens, sorry, not if anything happens, even if nothing happens is what I was trying to say, let me get my words out, I'd still take Jonathan Taylor in the 5th. I think he's got more potential upside than other people you're looking at, and we'll talk about.
So you're happy to kind of draft him to slot him into a flex pick straight away off the board, even with Marlon Mack there, or would you just have him on the bench as a good sleeper?
Probably flex. I think he'll be getting game reps game 1, snaps game 1. Montgomery did last year in Chicago. If you look at other players who beat out Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders was getting snaps game 1. Not much. These are the things. Rookies will get snaps, and you don't pick someone in the 2nd and trade up to just go, sit on the bench unless you're Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go on to numbers because I love numbers. I've got him at the minute finishing RB22, I think, on the year. I've gone for, again, I think he'll get up to about 200 carries because they're quite a run-heavy offense because they've got such a stacked offensive line. Again, I think he'll get 850 to 900 rushing yards because, as you say, I think it might even be game 4 he starts to take on the majority of the workload from Marlon Mack. But what's letting him down versus finishing 14 places higher over where I've got CEH, A, is sharing time at the start, and B, we just don't know what he's going to do in the pass game.
Yeah, it's fair. And I'd be happy in the 5th round with an RB22. At that sort of level,
That's
you'd be talking.
If you can pick up an somebody who's going to finish your season out RB2 when you need a solid RB2 going into your fantasy playoffs, and you can pick him up in the 5th round.
Yeah,
Sign me up, mate. Sign me
no
up.
doubt there.
And you're talking RB22 with a potentially slow start. But if you looked at half 1 versus half 2 of the season, he could finish an RB10.
Yeah.
If you look at it, because you're weighted across the whole season.
Yeah, it's one of those. If you're in a dynasty league, pick him up. He'll be good next year. Marlon Mack will be out next year, and there's another running back we'll talk about in a little bit. I think that's much of the same fate. But yeah, pick him up if you're in dynasty. He's going to be big.